Okay, my name is Alexander Poletz. I'm a member of this parish, now it's St. Michael's and St. Georges Ukranian Orthodox Church. And I was telling people about this book right here. One time when I visited Ukraine and visited my relatives, I asked them, is there a Ukrainian Orthodox Church in this town? They said, oh, there are many Orthodox churches. And I said, but those are Russian Orthodox churches. They said, well, they are Orthodox anyways. So then I understood they did not quite understand. And I came back here and sat by the table just like this, talking to an individual across about this. And after that, my story next week when I came in and we again sat by the table, and he comes in and says, Mr. Poletz, take a look at this book. And he gave me that book. It was in Ukrainian. This is translated. And I took this book, read, and came back and said, this is exactly what's needed. So I took the book and I went to Odessa, visited this Alena Mohelnitska, and she said that Metropolitan of Hanhel, Metropolitan of Odessa, is sort of defamed her, saying she wants Ukrainian language in the church. And she says, I could have gotten it on the television, but then I decided to write a book. And she spent a year and a half not to allow an error, because otherwise they would just tear her apart. And she wrote this book and published 1,000 copies, and in some way it got to my hands. So then I talked to her, talked to the publisher, started collecting money, and then next thing we published 15,000 of these books. The next time I went to Ukraine, we published 25,000, and then so on and so on. And I did periodically meet Patriarch Filaret and talk to him, and he says, you know what, this book has caused us, that our church has grown by 2,000 Ukrainian parishes. And he says, we would like to have church hours. So my distribution went by about maybe a couple 100,000 of books, and she wrote additional books. But it caused also the bishops, instead of keeping, there would be Ukrainian church and the bishop, and he would keep his parish or his eparchy together. But people forced them to unite, and that caused the United Ukrainian Church, which got recognized by the Ecumenical Patriarch a couple of years ago. So that's the story of this book.
Can you tell us a little more about the sister church in Bucha?
Okay, well, we were celebrating our 75th anniversary of this church, and I have gone to Ukraine many times, and then I was head of the parish board. I proposed that we find ourselves a sister church in Ukraine, and people agreed. So I went, and I didn't want to go too far away from Kyiv, so I started going to the nearby towns. Went to one town, they pointed me to a church. I went there and looked. I said, no, this is not a Ukrainian church. Then went to another town. Somebody said, there is a Ukrainian church, and I went there and couldn't find it. So I went to barber shop and asked barbers, where is the Ukrainian church in here? He said, oh, it's out in the field over there. You take this road and go out in the field. So I went there, and the church was over, and actually it was their patron saint's day, and they were having then dinner. So then I went over to that restaurant that they were having dinner, called the priest out, and I said, I'll come next week and talk about actually becoming sister churches with our church in America. So I will come next week. And so I came next week and met the priest, and we started the process. Then when I came here, when we had our celebration, we invited the priest from Ukraine to come over here and one of the parishioners. And so even he got permission, because he was not, or the Ukrainian church was not recognized, and ours is recognized, but then got permission for him to serve in our church, and we started the process. We gave them some money, and what happened, when there were 54 parishioners there that decided they would like to have Ukrainian church, and they combined and built that little church in Ukraine. And when they asked where they could build, at that time the city said, well, you can build it out on that field. You can have 2 hectares of land, which is about 5 acres. So the money that we have given, they built a fence all the way around that land, and that really saved that land, because the building process started so rapidly. There were buildings, now it's built all over. There are roads actually going around the 2 hectares of land. So they saved that, and the church started growing to such a point that actually the priest had to set up speakers on the poles outside the church so people could be participating or listening to the service. And then after a while, they proposed to build a church, gave the plans to the city. The first plans were by the city mayor, said, no, bring me better plans for a bigger church. So he brought plans for a bigger church, which to hold 1,000 people or so. And in very short time, the church got built. And actually from 54 parishioners to about 2018, there were over 10,000 parishioners attending services in that Ukrainian church. Wow. The Russian churches, there were several in that town, they became empty because people wanted to go to Ukrainian church. That's the story. And we still communicate right now after the Russian invasion of Bucha. When I talked to priests, they said, what is the biggest need right now that you have? So when he